One of the big talking points coming out of this past weekend's UFC St. Louis event is not the fights themselves, but this question that a reporter asked that everyone's talking about on social media. We're going to talk about that in today's video. My name is James Lynch. Apologies for the voice. Still not 100%, but I wanted to talk about this topic because it's concerning something that I talk about a lot here on this channel, and that is MMA media. So we're going to watch the whole exchange between Dana White and this media member. And shout out to Jedi Goodman, who does a great job clipping the press conferences, because I think a lot of people would have not noticed this unless they saw this clip. So here's what the reporter says to Dana White. And they're talking about bull riding, by the way, which has nothing to do with the event. But again, we'll talk about that after.
Be riding PBR. I got one of the nastiest bulls in the PBR. Yeah.
He's certainly a rank bull, and I've got one little challenge for Cowboy myself. If you notice this BMF brand on the top of my hat, got that custom branding iron, and I said if he did his ride, I was going to let him brand me, but now I just want to let him do it. So what do you think about that?
Did you say brand you?
Yes, sir.
Brand you?
Yes, sir.
You and Cowboy were made for each other.
Can we make it happen?
You're nuts. Can I make it happen?
Yes,
There's
sir.
no way in hell I would make that happen. You're crazy. Brand you where?
Back of the shoulder.
In the back of your shoulder.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Clout for fun.
Clout for
I'm
fun?
the BMF. I'll be the girl BMF.
Yeah, so that was kind of our reaction to hearing this question. Like, you want to get branded and you're bringing this up at a press conference when, think of all the questions you should ask Dana White at a press conference, and you're talking instead about getting branded. And she literally says for clout here. So you know her intentions right off the bat. She's saying that I'm doing this for attention, essentially, is what she's doing. But let's watch the rest of the clip here.
Yeah, I can't make that happen. You look like a really sweet lady. The last thing you need to do is get branded. Have you ever been branded before?
No.
No?
But I've done it to someone.
You should probably. You do? You have? Oh, you're into some shit, huh? I got it. All right. I don't know. Maybe talk to Eric. Maybe Eric will hook you up with Cowboy.
I'll see you in Arlington.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so this happens, and again, this clip goes on social media. People obviously have their comments and talk about all types of stuff, but this clip really gets amplified, I should say, when Ariel Helwani quote tweets it and talks kind of about the state of MMA media, and we'll kind of read his response here. He says, "This is what the UFC wants at their press conferences. Make no mistake about it. The sport has come so far, has evolved so much. The UFC is on fire. The athletes are more talented than ever. The media, however, has gone backwards. Embarrassing." So on the one hand, I understand where Ariel's coming from, because think about all the people that work in this industry that, want to go cover events. I've talked about this in other videos. The UFC has a very specific way that they allow media credentials for media members to cover the event. So imagine, someone that's really knowledgeable, that has really good questions, is, not let into a press conference, and you have this girl coming in and asking questions about getting branded, which has nothing to do with the fights, right? Like, it has to do with the UFC in terms of, the PBR and the bull riding and all that. But that's like, again, it kind of took away from the press conference a little bit. And she even says herself, she's doing this for clout. So that's where people kind of took issue with this. And, Ariel calling it embarrassing. Listen, there's been a lot of bad questions at press conferences over the last little bit. I covered this exact topic about a month ago, explaining why I think bad questions do get asked at pressers. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. Mainly kind of giving my understanding as to why you see bad questions come into press conferences and all that. But back to the Ariel clip. He was a little harsh. I'll be honest here. I don't think it was the end of the world. It's not like something too outlandish, but I think the overall theme of what Ariel's saying and why people are so upset with this is that this doesn't have anything to do with the fights. Like, nothing about Derek Lewis, nothing about, Chase Hooper or any of the other winners on the card. It's talking about PBR bull riding, which, by the way, I don't mind hearing questions at press conferences that have to do outside of MMA. Like, I don't have an issue with that, but this kind of line of questioning made it seem like this girl was kind of just making the presser about herself. So she then sees Ariel's response and has her own video. We're going to watch that here, and I'll give my thoughts on it after.
What's up, fight fans? I just wanted to jump on here and address something real quick. You can hear it in my voice. I was at UFC Fight Night, Derek Lewis versus Nascimento. It was a good night. Some of you guys might recognize my voice from the post-fight press conference. I was the female reporter that asked Dana White about Twisted Steel, and specifically about getting branded at the World Finals. Ariel Helwani. I've got a lot of respect for you as a reporter and as a trailblazer in combat sports media, because without you, I wouldn't have the job that I have, and a lot of people wouldn't have the jobs that they have. But you need to recognize too, yeah, you're a journalist, you podcast, you talk to fighters. You and I are in very different lanes, and on top of that, you made it out to seem like I was asking an irrelevant question. Dana White's got a very competitive PBR bucking bull that I've been following since November of last year. I've been chasing the Cowboy story, the bull ride, the 8 seconds for glory, since they announced it. I was one of the first MMA reporters to actually give a shit about that story. And I'm one of the only combat sports personalities that shows up at the PBR. Other than the Monster Crew, I was the only one in Jacksonville covering Twisted Steel. And I went out specifically to Albuquerque. So maybe don't question my relevancy or my right to be in that room without understanding everything that goes in. And maybe don't clip the one part of the conversation that Dana took a little bit too far and that I rolled with. It's news media. I am new. And you are not the end-all be-all, Ariel.
Okay, so this is probably the worst way possible to respond to something like this. Like if she had come on here and been like, look, I'm new, I'm trying something different, that's fine. But she's like going after Ariel, which she talks off the top about respecting Ariel and saying, you're the reason I have a job. But then she's saying that we're doing different things. And then she's also attacking me. She says, you aren't the be-all, end-all with Ariel Helwani. How do you think this is going to end? Here's what I think. If you really respected Ariel, and again, this isn't about defending Ariel, because I think Ariel, there are things you can criticize him for. This is not one here. I think she took the worst approach possible by going after Ariel, because you're essentially talking about someone who's made it in this industry, who's made a living of this. He's the one that is probably the most notable, famous journalist in this industry. And now you're telling him he's not the be-all, end-all. Like, who are you to say that? You know what I mean? Like, you even just admitted you're new. The best option here, in my opinion, would have been for her to send a message to Ariel, email him, whatever, and say, hey, let's talk about this. But you're making it all public. And now you're trying to get Twitter to turn on Ariel. And there will be fans that turn on Ariel, and there have been. And we're going to go read some of the comments here in a second. But it's like her way of like getting her Twitter followers to like be on her side and all that stuff. Because let's face it, no matter what, there's people who don't like Ariel no matter what he does. And even in this instance where I don't think he was necessarily wrong, I did think he, was a little bit harsh calling it embarrassing, but I don't think it's wrong for him to criticize a question that has nothing to do with fighting. The other thing is she doesn't even address the branding thing in the video. She doesn't even mention that she says, I want to get branded for clout. That's the issue. It's not the issue about talking about the bull riding. I actually think that's good about her talking about things outside of the regular UFC stuff, as long as it's not taking up the whole presser. She's talking about the bull and all that. That's fine. But the part that really, I think, annoyed people was that you talked about getting branded and how you're doing it for clout. And that just looks like someone who's there just to make the press conference about themselves. That's what people took issue with. And she doesn't address it here. And I think that's a really bad look. And I don't know much about her. Like, again, like I'm just giving my opinion here. I think she was at UFC 300. I feel like I did see her there. I don't like, I've only kind of just briefly heard about her and then obviously saw this video as well. But it doesn't end there, because watch this. If you look on her timeline, let me just find it here. She's just retweeting all these other people, like this guy. It's just sad how people want to treat women who are real professionals like crap. This has nothing to do with her being a woman. This could be a guy asking the same question. People would have the exact same response. The issue is that she's talking about something that has nothing to do with fighting. And she's talking about getting branded and doing something for herself for attention, which she admitted. She literally said clout here. So she's just taking all these comments from people that are basically on her side, retweeting it. But what she doesn't realize is that none of these people are going to hire her. You know what I mean? Like, it's a small industry. If you're going to publicly attack media members, it's not going to end very well. And I just think that's where she's kind of missing things. Again, no issues with her asking some stuff about the PBR bull riding and all that. But the part that people got annoyed with is like, you're talking about getting branded, which is just, it's kind of a weird thing to talk about. And two, like you're asking Dana White if he can brand her. That has nothing to do with media or journalism or anything like that. And again, like I wish her well. Like I wish this situation didn't come to what, what it's come to right now. But I just think she took the totally wrong approach here. If she would have come out with a video and said, look, this is why I asked these questions, which she kind of did at the beginning, acknowledge the branding thing, acknowledge that, look, I'm new here. I'm still trying to learn stuff, whatever. If she did that, but instead she's attacking Ariel, I just think that's a bad look. And you're not going to win when you attack Ariel because he's got a larger following than you do. Ariel's actually someone that's established in this industry. I just think this is a really bad move here. So again, I wish her well, but I think, getting defensive on a question that really shouldn't have been answered at a presser, I think it's kind of a bad look here. So my whole take on this is, and I don't agree with Ariel that like this is what the UFC wants. I think the UFC does want your regular media and stuff. What they don't want, I don't think they want a media member to take things away from the actual fights, because that's what happened here. I think at the end of the day, the UFC does want the media to talk about, the fights. I know that UFC probably does want a little bit of talk of power slap and some other stuff too, right? Which you do get in there. But the issue is that this was, again, something that, like talking about the branded thing, that just had nothing to do with the fights, had nothing to do with bull riding other than, getting branded because of the bull riding. I think that's where she's kind of losing people a little bit. And also Ariel didn't clip the clip. It was Jedi who clipped the clip. So again, she's kind of wrong about that too. So my thoughts are just, certain people get credentials and then they can kind of there's nobody as the UFC shouldn't, they don't pre-screen questions. So people can kind of talk about what they want. And Dana was kind of just rolling along with it, but she made it out like Dana forced the issue. Dana was kind of just, trying to make this not as awkward, because when is a media member going to say, please brand me? I don't know, kind of a bad look there for her. And I just think in the end, she kind of got what she wanted. She got a clout, right? That's sort of what she said herself was clout. But I just think that she's going to have a hard time really making a name for herself in the media industry when you're hating on someone like Ariel, who again, I know is not the most popular person. And I see people defending her on, social media and making it a women's issue. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's just someone who asked a question that wasn't really relevant at the presser. You want to talk about the bull riding? Totally fine with me. A question or two there. That's something that, and credit to her for covering that, because again, not everyone's doing it. But the branding thing, when you're trying to make the press conference about yourself, that's where you sort of lose people. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What was your reaction to this? And what was your reaction to her response video? Because again, I think if she had come out a little bit softer saying, look, I'm trying to do something different here. You guys may not like it, but this is just my style. Maybe even acknowledge that maybe I shouldn't ask the branding question. I think she really believes that was a good question. I don't think it was. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments what you think. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.